Welcome to day one of JavaScript Fundamentals. Today we are going to talk about two things. The first being the requirements of not only this course but web development in general. And then we are going to write some code. So as far as requirements are concerned, you need two things. You need a text editor, which every operating system comes with a default text editor. And while they will get the job done, I highly recommend that you do not use them, that you find a code editor instead. A code editor is a text editor with features geared towards writing code, so that basically makes our lives easier. So if you can find a code editor that you like, stick with it. One that comes to mind is Sublime Text, which Jeffrey Way uses. I've used it a couple of times, and it's a very nice code editor. And the nice thing about it is, regardless of what operating system you're on, there's probably a version for you. So if you're on Windows or Mac OS X or Linux, they have a version of Sublime Text for you. The only problem is that it's paid-for software. You can evaluate it for as long as you want, but in order to use it, you have to purchase a license. Throughout this course, I'm going to use some software called WebMatrix. It's written by Microsoft, and it's completely free, but naturally, it's for Windows users only. But it's a nice code editor that also has a built-in web server, so if you ever wanted to get into more advanced development, WebMatrix might be something that you wanted to do. The next thing you'll need is a web browser, and for the most part we're going to target standards-based code. So as long as you have one of the latest versions of any of the browsers, you're going to be fine. But we will spend some time looking at what I call legacy Internet Explorer, which is Internet Explorer 8 and below. And you don't have to have those installed, but if you do have the capability to test in those versions of Internet Explorer, then feel free to follow along. I still would like you to watch those particular lessons because IE or legacy IE is still a huge portion of the web as far as users are concerned. And so we need to write code to target not only the newest browsers, but also those users using Internet Explorer 8 and below. Alright, well let's write some code now. And in order to do that, we need a web page. So I'm going to create one called index.html. It really doesn't matter what you name this file, just as long as you have one. And this is a perfect example of why you would want a code editor as opposed to a text editor. With a text editor, we would have to create a file and then type all of this HTML out. And while it's not a lot of HTML, it's extra work that we would have to do. With a code editor, all we had to do was tell it what type of file that we wanted it to create, give it a name, and then it created the rest for us. So that's just one of the ways that code editors make our lives easier. Okay, so as far as JavaScript is concerned, we can't just add JavaScript to our web page. Otherwise, the browser would render it as text, and we don't want that. So we need some way to tell the browser, hey, we are writing JavaScript code. We want you to execute it. And we do that by using the script element. And we can use the script element in two ways. The first way is writing code directly inside of the script element. So we are essentially embedding JavaScript inside of the page. And the code that we are going to write today is very simple. It's just one line of code. We are going to call a function called alert. A function is a command that does something specific. And in the case of the alert function, it tells the browser to pop up an alert window, and then we can provide information to display inside of that window. So we have alert followed by an open parentheses, and then we just need to specify some information that we want to display within this alert window. Just notice that this text is surrounded by double quotes. You don't have to know what that is yet. We will talk about that tomorrow, but just note that those are there. And then we have a closing parentheses followed by a semicolon. So this is just our one line of code that we are going to use today. I'm going to save it, and let's run this inside of a browser. And with WebMatrix, it's very easy. That's why I chose WebMatrix for this course. And we can see that the browser loaded up, and it's displaying a little window that says Hello World inside of it. And if we ran this in Internet Explorer, we would get the same results. Although naturally the alert window would look a little bit different, but the same thing is occurring. We get this alert window with the text hello world, and whatever we supply inside of this call to the alert function, it's going to display inside of that window. In the olden days, this is where we positioned the script element. We did so inside of the head element, but we don't do that anymore. We put it at the bottom of the body, in fact, right before the closing body tag. And the reason being because browsers load web pages from top to bottom sequentially. So it starts at the top and it starts loading each element at a time. So when it gets to the script element, it stops because it has to load that JavaScript code into the JavaScript engine, execute it, and then it can continue loading the rest of the page. So as far as the user is concerned, they're getting their content after it loads the JavaScript code. So by placing the script at the end of the body, the user gets their content faster. And then the browser loads our JavaScript, because really the web pages that we write should work without JavaScript. I mean, yes, naturally there are going to be some applications that are dependent upon JavaScript, but as far as a web page is concerned, JavaScript really isn't that important. So by loading the JavaScript last, the user gets their content faster, and there's this perceived notion that the web page loaded faster because they got their content. Even though the net download time is the same, they got their content faster. So we place the script element at the bottom of the page, and we'll get the same results. So if I go back to Chrome and refresh, we get the same results. So it really doesn't matter as far as our concern, but it does matter as far as the user's concern. Now earlier I said we can use the script element in two ways. The first way was directly embedding JavaScript inside of our web page. But we don't want to do that because let's say we want to use this same JavaScript code throughout multiple files. So let's create another file. I'll call it index2. And I'll just paste this in. And we want index and index2 to have the same JavaScript code. So any change I make to index, I'm going to have to make to index2. Now, in this simple case, this is just, copying and pasting. But let's say that we have a site that has tens, maybe even hundreds of pages. You would have to go to each of those individual pages and change the JavaScript code throughout all of those pages. You are bound to miss one, you're bound to miss many of them, and you're bound to make some error along the way. So there's got to be a better way to do this, and thankfully there is. Instead of directly embedding JavaScript code inside of a web page, we typically write that code inside of an external file and then reference that file inside of our page. So let's create a new file. I don't know why Microsoft still calls this JScript. It's JavaScript. Sorry. Just a little pet peeve of mine. I created a new file with an extension called JS. JS stands for JavaScript. And inside of a JavaScript file, you don't have any HTML whatsoever. So there's no script element or anything like this. It's just pure JavaScript code. So we can do our hello world. And then we can go to, let's go to index first. And we need to add a source attribute to our script element. And we need to say that we want it to pull in the code at helloworld.js. And then naturally, we still need to have the closing element. We cannot use, the self-closing. Unfortunately, we do have to specify the closing element. And we just simply need to do the same thing in index2. And now both of these HTML files are pointing to the same JavaScript file. So any change we make to helloworld.js is going to be used by both index and index2. So let's add something else. Let's say hello JavaScript fundamentals. And then let's load index. We have index already done. So we have hello world. And then it's going to alert us again, hello, JavaScript fundamentals, with my little typo. And if we look at index2.html, we will get the same results. Throughout this course, you will primarily see me use the external file approach. There will be sometimes I will directly embed JavaScript code inside of a web page, but that's only so that you can see the relationship between the HTML and the JavaScript. So that is going to wrap up today's lesson. Get ready for lesson 2 because we are going to dig deeper into the JavaScript language.